Oscar Piastri was handed a 10-second penalty after a first-lap collision that ended Charles Leclerc's race, but now, he wants answers. From battling for the title to chasing shadows, one decision dropped Piastri behind, and Lando Norris now holds a 24-point lead with 3 races left. Silent no more, Piastri and his management have gone to the FIA demanding an official explanation for what many are calling a rushed and harsh call. We break down the incident, the FIA's response, how it's affected the title fight, and why Oscar Piastri might be more dangerous now than ever. Oscar Piastri has built a reputation on poise, calm under pressure, clarity under chaos. But in Brazil, that calm was shaken. Just seconds after the lights went out, a split-second racing decision led to a 3-car collision at Turn 1. The stewards moved swiftly, a 10-second penalty for Piastri, blamed for the incident that forced Charles Leclerc into early retirement. But was this truly a driver error, or a case of racing justice gone wrong? From the moment of contact, the replay divided the paddock. Piastri went for a gap that opened on the inside. Antonelli flinched under pressure, Leclerc overcommit on the outside, and the result was pure chaos. Many saw it as a racing incident, aggressive, yes, but nothing out of line. Yet the FIA handed down their decision before the race had even settled. And just like that, Piastri's strategy was destroyed. What was supposed to be a fight for the win became a recovery drive. With Norris out front dominating, Piastri's 10-second penalty erased any shot at victory. He dropped into traffic, lost tire advantage, and was forced to claw his way through the midfield while watching his title rival extend the championship lead. By the end of the day, the gap between them stood at 24 points, a swing that could define the season. For most of the year, Piastri kept quiet. No drama. No complaints. But this time, silence turned to resistance. According to sources inside the paddock, the McLaren camp and Piastri himself formally approached the FIA after the race. They weren't asking for a reversal. They were demanding an explanation. What criteria had been used? Why was it so quick? And why, in such a high-stakes environment, was the verdict not even debated? This isn't just about a 10-second penalty. It's about the invisible forces that shape championship narratives. With just 3 races to go, every call matters. One stewarding decision can tilt the balance of power. And when those decisions start to feel inconsistent, drivers, even the calmest ones, begin to question the system around them. Piastri isn't losing focus. He's sharpening it. And that makes him even more dangerous. The first few corners of any Formula 1 Grand Prix are always volatile. Drivers on cold tires, full fuel, and inches from one another. It's a pressure cooker where instincts take over. And in Brazil, Oscar Piastri trusted his. Coming into Turn 1 on the opening lap, he spotted a gap on the inside of Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc was wide on the outside, and with a decisive lunge, Piastri committed. But in the blink of an eye, 3 drivers tangled and only one walked away penalized. The FIA judged Piastri to be predominantly at fault for the collision. It was his nose that appeared deepest into the corner, his breaking point under scrutiny. But replay footage reveals a different nuance. Antonelli moved mid-corner, narrowing the available space. Leclerc, carrying extra speed around the outside, was squeezed. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't desperate. It was a textbook example of hard racing until it turned into chaos. And instead of reviewing it thoroughly post-race, the stewards dropped the verdict almost immediately, 10 seconds for Piastri. That penalty flipped the entire strategic map for McLaren. What was supposed to be a 2-car battle for the podium instantly became a one-man show. Piastri, now tasked with serving the time during his first stop, lost clean air, undercut options, and any shot at managing tire life properly. And while Norris extended his lead in the cleanest stint of the season, Piastri was forced into damage control, navigating traffic and fighting from deep within the midfield. From a competitive standpoint, the damage was clear. But emotionally, the impact was worse. This wasn't just a racing moment gone wrong, it was a harsh, early ruling that undermined the entire momentum of Piastri's weekend. He had qualified ahead of both Ferraris. He had a real chance at striking back after several frustrating rounds. And instead, through one incident and one rapid decision, the entire narrative shifted back toward Norris. The bigger question is why the penalty came so quickly. With 3 cars involved, and so much at stake in the title fight, the expectation was that the stewards would consult more data, including throttle traces and steering inputs. But that didn't happen. Within minutes, the judgment was public. And for many inside the paddock, including former drivers and commentators, the speed of that call raised eyebrows. Especially when similar lap 1 incidents earlier in the season had gone unpunished. Piastri didn't erupt on the radio. He didn't curse, accuse, or spiral. But he did raise a point: he moved on me. It wasn't just frustration. It was a clear signal that he knew what happened and felt wronged. And when a driver with Piastri's analytical mind takes issue with a penalty, the F1 world should listen. Because in this case, the issue might not just be about Brazil. It might be about how race control is handling the most important title fight in years. Once the penalty was issued, McLaren's race engineers knew everything had to change. Their original plan for Piastri was simple: shadow Lando Norris on the alternate strategy, use undercut potential around lap 18, and apply late race pressure if track position allowed. But 10 seconds in the pit lane wipes out any margin. The call came fast shift to plan C. They opted for long-run durability, banking on a late safety car or chaos among the frontrunners to offer a window back into the fight. But that was a gamble. And on a track like Interlagos, short, tight, and hard to overtake, cleanly losing that early clean air was costly. Piastri rejoined behind slower cars, in turbulent air, and had to manage tire temps aggressively. The slightest misstep in traffic would overheat the surface layer of the rear rubber, compromising traction out of turns 10 and 12, exactly where DRS becomes most critical. He knew it. And so, instead of forcing the car forward, Piastri dialed back inputs and played the long game. Inside the cockpit, Oscar Piastri's ability to adapt under fire was again on display. He adjusted brake bias forward during low-fuel stints to stabilize the car's front end in traffic. He delayed throttle application by microseconds to protect traction off tighter corners. All of it invisible on the broadcast. But the telemetry told the real story. Piastri was extracting nearly 100% of available grip in every critical phase, despite running in dirtier air, despite heavier fuel loads, and despite carrying the emotional drag of a controversial penalty. The engineering team, however, wasn't flawless. While Norris received near-constant updates on rival strategies and sector splits, Piastri's radio feed remained quiet. Too quiet. It reflected a pattern that has surfaced in recent rounds. Norris, in a title push, appears to be receiving more proactive support. Piastri? More reactive calls, less assertive options. Not deliberate sabotage, but perhaps a team's natural gravitation toward the leader in the standings. Still, in a double title push, parity matters. And in Brazil, it didn't feel balanced. And yet, Piastri kept delivering. He made up 5 positions with clean, measured overtakes, including a standout move on Fernando Alonso that showcased both technical racecraft and emotional control. He brought the car home in 5th, ahead of both Aston Martins and just seconds off George Russell. No lockups. No frustration. No signs of collapse. It was the drive of a future champion managing damage in a high-pressure scenario. What made it more remarkable? He never once lost sight of the bigger picture. While Norris soaked up the spotlight with another win, Piastri stayed laser-focused on the fundamentals. Tire wear, ERS usage, rear temperatures, everything was accounted for. The race may have been lost on lap 1, but the championship? Still open. And if Brazil was a test of resilience, Oscar Piastri passed with distinction. After the checkered flag in Brazil, the body language inside McLaren's garage said more than the race results. On one side, jubilation for Lando Norris, a clean, dominant win from pole. On the other, controlled frustration around Oscar Piastri's side of the garage. Mechanics moved quickly, eyes down. Engineers avoided lingering in the background shots. It wasn't rage. It wasn't defeat. It was tension, and it was growing. Oscar Piastri is not a driver who vents publicly. He doesn't storm out of media pens or throw teammates under the bus. But behind that calm exterior, the pressure is mounting. Brazil was not an isolated moment. For several races, he's been grappling with narrower strategic windows, quieter radio support, and more post-race questions than answers. The FIA's 10-second penalty may have been the flashpoint, but the deeper issue is trust in the stewards and, more worryingly, in how the team is managing the championship battle. This is the kind of fracture that can define or break a title push. In a team fighting on 2 fronts, balance is everything. But perception becomes reality fast in Formula 1. And now, the perception is clear: McLaren is leaning toward Norris. Not because of malice, but momentum. He leads the standings. He's the media darling. And whether intentional or not, Piastri is beginning to look like the number 2 in a championship he once led by 34 points. The numbers are stark. Norris now sits at 390 points. Piastri, 366. Just 3 races remain with 83 points on the table, including sprint and fastest lap bonuses. A single DNF, a moment of misjudgment, or another strategic misfire could decide it all. And Oscar knows that. Every decision, every interaction, every millisecond from now until Abu Dhabi counts. This isn't just a title fight. It's a political minefield dressed in carbon fiber.